should be able to play it Surge to freedom. No! Jankos comes in, but it's another kill for Jankos. He's now 3-0-1.
Every time we get behind, we never seem to get ahead again.
Oh, they've landed the Payne, and the ultimate. Oh, wow, and PK going to pick up the first one in this one.
I feel we're back on track, so 4-0 is the only way to go.
Here comes Freddy though from the side. It's a good knock-up. He's going to get 3 though. Oh, they're all being shattered.
We can hopefully finish with 2 wins now.
I definitely think that we can still go 2-2.
If we win tomorrow, we just get a boost of morale.
To the final day of the summer split in the European LCS, live from our studio in Cologne, Germany. I'm Evgeny supporter, and I am joined by Lee D-Man Smith and Martin the Fisio Lunge. And we have 5 games worth of action heading your way today as the teams play their last matches and try to lock in those final spots in the standings before playoffs. But before we get to today's matches, let's break down the big stories from Wednesday. And guys, first off, SK Gaming 3-0 already, and they took down Alliance and Fnatic yesterday.
Yeah, they are looking fantastic. They're setting up on stage right now. You may be able to see them just in the corner of your eye there. nRated 4-0 the dream. He's already been signaling. It's been a fantastic turnaround from 0-5 to a potential 5-0. What a perfect time to shine coming into playoffs.
Absolutely, and we mentioned it already, and Alliance and Fnatic losing. They locked in their top 2 spot and then not really showing up that much yesterday.
No, it was pretty clear as well. They were just testing out new champions. We saw Alistar Yasuo from Fnatic. Didn't really work, not on the same page, and Reckless was also saying on Twitter afterwards, hey, we just tested out a new comp, we need more practice. So they were testing out some new picks. We're probably going to see the same thing here today.
Very interesting. And well, talking about losing also to Super Haku and Millennium at the midst of that table, well, I don't know what's going on with those teams, to be honest.
Honestly, I think it's just pressure. I mean, Super Hot Crew, the first time they've been in this playoff situation. New team, of course, came in last spring, so suddenly the pressure was on them. They came into this 3rd place in Super Week and they've slipped right down already. Same for Millennium, of course. They were bottom of the table last season, so they're also both feeling the pressure, I think, coming into playoffs.
But we must really hope here they can actually fix the mistakes, because the games they've played in this Super Week have been horrible. They've been losing them straight up, didn't have a chance to win. Now, 1 week from now, we have the quarterfinals. If they don't fix all the mistakes they have before quarterfinals, they won't go into semifinals and maybe not even towards the Worlds. Or of course not towards the Worlds.
Well, it is crunch time for those teams. And turning to the playoff bracket, despite 6 matches yesterday, much of the seeding has still not been decided. Only Alliance and Fnatic locked things up yesterday after Fnatic lost to SK Gaming, which meant they could no longer catch Alliance. And the rest of the teams could potentially finish in several different spots as seeding gets determined during today's games. Now let's take a quick look at the standings so you can see just how close these teams are. In the middle of the table, it's nearly neck and neck, as just 1 game separates the teams in order from SK Gaming in 3rd place to Roccat in 6th. That means we could see multiple tiebreaker scenarios for each of those positions, and that could even extend to the bottom of the table, where Gambit could even things up with the Copenhagen Wolves.
And full respect to Gambit for the fact that going to this Super Week, they had some issues with the lineup, and they just start playing really well. Confidence, team synergy, everything is showing. If they do manage to win against SK Gaming, it's going to be hard because they've been looking so good, and they actually tie Copenhagen Wolves, we will have a very exciting tiebreaker.
I think for Gambit, honestly, the realization that, especially for the likes of Eduard and Diamond, this has been their job for the last 3-4 years now in League of Legends. Suddenly that is at risk. Suddenly they realize we need to listen to any outside help we can get.
Yeah, that's what we heard yesterday as well from Dimitri. And of course, there are some huge moments that had you guys fired up on Twitter. So let's take a look at your top 2 LCS big plays. Up first was Shook's sneaky showstopper against Gambit at Charthogue. That cocoon was beautiful. This was your 2nd most talked about play.
Look for a cocoon from Shook.
Very, very patient play. The ultimate used. Now the cocoon. Whoa! Perfect pixel placement there.
He managed to thread the needle.
What a cocoon from Shook.
Absolutely perfectly aimed here. Sets up Froggen as well for porting and killing. And Shook, to be honest, has been the best jungler in Europe. If he can keep it up going in towards the playoffs, I really do believe Alliance can actually also take it to Worlds.
All right, the second one, the most talked about big play, came from Jesiz Oriana against Alliance. That turned the game in SK's favor at Syracuse. Such a perfect shockwave out of Jesiz to turn that fight around. This was your #1 LCS big play.
He's going to get taken down. Saw Shackles from nRated. Will stun out 3 members, but nRated is now very low. Okay, no, Ball's coming in straight away. Shock's in now. 3-man shockwave once again from Jesiz.
That is just another fantastic shockwave coming out of Jesiz.
You know, Trevor said it himself there, fantastic shockwave. He did, what, 3-4 of them throughout that game. Really has stepped up his game for Super Week.
Absolutely, just in time. Remember, you can always tweet us your favorite plays of the day using the hashtag LCSBigPlays. And now let's take a look at today's matches. We'll start the day off with Gambit versus SK Gaming, which is a big match with a lot of bearing for the playoff positioning. And then we'll wrap up with Alliance versus Millennium. After that, if there are any ties left to settle, we'll play those tiebreaker games at the end of today to lock the standings. And for all of the stats, schedules, VODs, and more, you can head over to lolesports.com. That's where you can also find global updates on every region's best teams as they head toward Worlds. And click on the tickets link to find out how you could join us live here for the quarterfinals coming up next week. And now, we'd like you to think back over this week and get on Twitter to tell us who is your MVP this Super Week so far and why. Gentlemen.
Well, first of all, we have to look towards SK Gaming because they're winning all the games. Jesiz, we just saw the shockwaves. He's been looking very good. Svenskeren in the jungle, been performing really well. But I actually want to go towards Gambit instead and say Kubon. Because for me, he was a guy who has been underperforming before Super Week, and now all of a sudden he's playing Gragas, he's playing Maokai, and he's just been dominating in the top lane. He's been winning games for Gambit when they really need to win them here. So for me, he's actually been the MVP so far.
For me, it's all the broadcast crew that have been here for countless hours throughout, obviously, the last 2 days. And it's going to be a long one again today.
Absolutely. Send your answers to us at LOL Esports, and we'll read your most valuable tweets later in the show. And now, let's send it over to the desk to kick things off with Joe and Quickshot.
Hello once again, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Joe Miller here with Trevor Quickshot Henry, and it's time to get our final day of the summer split underway as Gambit Gaming face SK. Now, Gambit can take 7th place here today if they win, and then the Copenhagen Wolves lose, which would force that tiebreaker for the 7th and 8th positions. Now, if SK win here, they have a much better chance of securing 3rd place, as it would eliminate a 3-way tie scenario, because only the Super Hot crew would then be able to catch them.
Yeah, we'll have to see how these games play out. We will be updating you over the course of the day. Let's start by talking a little bit about Gambit Gaming. They have stepped up this week, as Deficio just mentioned, and we've heard from Nick yesterday saying that the team is listening to their analyst, they're focusing on the promotion tournament, and with the pressure of playoffs off of their shoulders and the risk of losing the position in the LCS during that promotion tournament, it looks like Gambit have appeared to improve, but it is the last possible moment. They took down the Wolves and Millennium, they pushed Alliance super hard in terms of team fights, but today, as a team, they need to have better objective control and map presence, especially if they want to challenge SK and prevent SK going 4-0.
Yeah, and speaking of SK, they are 3-0 after taking not just Millennium down, but the top 2, Alliance and Fnatic as well. And they're the only team in Super Week to have not lost a match.
Yeah, and I think they've potentially peaked at the right time. They've come into Super Week looking to settle a score and take that 3rd place seed, which Super Hot Crew was looking to secure. And they've got a very good chance. So to keep their Super Week perfect means they have to take down Gambit. And the players that need to step up and have stepped up this week is Jesiz and CandyPanda. Jesiz is currently 14-2-19 in 3 games, and CandyPanda is a staggering 22-6-21 with those wins over Fnatic and Alliance. I just think SK are the favorites in this match. It'll be up to these 2 guys to deliver another stellar performance, lock in that perfect week, 4-0 Super Week, and potentially 3rd place seed if Super Hot Crew lose 1 game.
So let's check out then the lineups for our first match. On the blue side today, it's Gambit Gaming with Kubon in the top lane, Diamond in the jungle, Nick in the mid lane, and the duo of Genja and Eduard.
And on the red side, it is SK Gaming with Freddy up top, Sven in the jungle, Jesiz playing the mid lane, CandyPanda and nRated as the duo.
So let's check in then and see which of these teams you guys think will take the win. With 67% of the votes, SK Gaming. That is not a huge number in favor of SK.
About 2/3, Joe, actually,
it is.
in favor of SK. Look, they've been on a tear. 3-0, they've looked terrifying. Jez's Ahri play on day 1 really stands out in my mind against Millennium because he was roaming and countering Kerp's Kassadin just by successfully timing. But Gambit themselves, they've also taken down Millennium, maybe not necessarily as cleanly, But both of these teams have been performing much better this week than they have in previous ones. And I think SK, they can't underestimate Gambit, especially Kubon, like Deficio was saying. If he gets his hands on, you know, Maokai or maybe Gragas, that could work in their favor.
Done a really fantastic job coming into this week. But as we move towards Champion Select then, what are we looking at here? Where is the focus going to be?
So I think the Gragas pick is an important one because both of these teams have run him, but Gambit have used him as a support and a top laner. Freddy, on the other hand, has been trending towards the Nidalee. He's been drawing Nidalee bans all week long. So I think that's going to be a priority pick. I also think that Jesiz is somewhat of a question mark. He's played Ahri, he's played Orianna, and he's had strong performances on both of those champions. So I wonder if Gambit may look to try ban him out. Traditionally, when Jesiz has struggled, SK have struggled, but on the same token, all of the slack has been picked up by CandyPanda.
Yeah, I mean, Orianna for both of these mid lanes has to be a consideration, whether that's early on in the picks or maybe even in the bans. Aatrox for Freddy as well, constantly fantastic with that one. We heard CandyPanda actually yesterday say in the interview, you know, that the position that we're in now with AD carries is actually really suiting him because he loves to play the likes of Kog'Maw, of Corki, likes Ezreal as well, which unfortunately is a little bit further down the tier. Caitlyn as well, not quite as strong as he'd wish for, but and Tristana.
He's in his comfort zone.
Because he's done well. He's in his comfort zone right now with the champions available.
He is, and I posed a question to CandyPanda, which he swatted away quite diligently. SK as a team have struggled from patch to patch. They have been good on certain patches as the meta shifted and changed in the summer splits, whether it was their practice regime or their individual solo queue, which they have spoken about quite significantly that cost them games, or their inability to adapt to the meta game that cost them. This patch is working out in CandyPanda's favor. The next patch where there's 30 champions that are being balanced and changed, is he still going to be in that comfort zone? Because Gambit, they're also finding a balance. As the time has progressed, they've looked scary, they've had impacts. And I've been very critical of Diamond in recent weeks because of his history, because of his pedigree, and he's finally making positive plays here in Super Week.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Diamond. He's brought out Kha'Zix a lot of the time, in fact. And we've seen stranger picks from him. We've always referred to Diamond, and he's been known as the innovative jungler, to be honest. And I think he's actually played Kha'Zix every single game, right?
All 3 games.
All 3 games. So that's maybe a consideration for bans. They've been banning Evelyn against him. We've seen him play Skarner. We've seen him play Rammus. He's picked up some crazy stuff in the jungle. Skarner and Rammus, I don't know if we're going to see him come back because they weren't so successful for him.
Nor was this Rengar. He played Rengar day 1 of last week, and it was not particularly effective. His Kha'Zix this week has found more impact. It has found kills. He's found more synergy with the rest of his players. So I think if I were on the side of SK, maybe putting on something more uncomfortable, or Sven, if he can get Eve, he can just counter jungle.
Well, let's find out. We're going to go into bans and picks here, and we can see already first 2 coming out. Freddy going to have the Nidalee taken away, and there is that Kha'Zix ban. We talked about it already, that Diamond's ran it in all 3 games. Orianna will be a ban from Gambit here as well, which we expected being such a highly contested pick between these 2 sides.
TF, Kassadin still available, Gragas still available. So a lot of these priority picks that both teams have run in the past and put emphasis on, but slightly less mid lane focus than what we have been seeing through the majority of our games.
So that leaves them now with a choice. Do they ban out, I was going to say Gragas or Kassadin, but they actually ban out Kog'Maw. Now Gambit are saying, okay, do we take Gragas or do we take Kassadin?
SK Gaming have already beaten Kassadin this week. SK Gaming took down Millennium by giving Millennium first pick Kassadin. They instantly replied with an Aatrox Gragas pick. That was what they ran first time around, but the Aatrox has been banned away. So we need to see if this is going to be support Gragas, which is what my instinct is telling me, because Freddy has not really tried to pick that up in the past, and Jesiz ran Ahri into that Kassadin last time around. So let's see, can SK defeat Kassa win twice in a week?
Kassa lose, as he's been so far.
Kassadin. You've got the wrong emphasis.
Apparently so, yes. Everwin has been picked up here for Diamond, though, since his Kha'Zix was banned away. And as he said, Evelyn's been banned constantly against him these last few weeks, and we'll see exactly how Diamond's going to do on that one. With the amount of bans, you'd expect that that's going to be a very strong pick coming out for him. What's third here for Gambit? Will they think now about going for a top laner, or Are they just going to go straight in there, take a support away maybe?
Gambit are going to be well aware that SK Gaming have already defeated Kassadin, and this pick and ban phase, I'm going to say, is in favor of SK. Look at the speed at which they're insta-locking the champions, and the fact that they've had a successful strategy against Kassadin. What allowed them to punish Millennium so hard was their aggressive map play. They were constantly looking for tower dives, looking to get in Millennium's face and invading the jungle. So that prevented any teleport ganks from Kassadin to really be super effective. And at the same time, Jesiz was roaming. So with a Lee Sin, as opposed to the Evelyn, if memory serves, is what they ran last time. It was Elise, rather. It's going to fulfill that same role. Aggressive, in your face, early game. And as long as Gambit can hold off, they can do well late game, but they can't give up too much too early.
So, also got to keep in mind here that in that very same game where we saw the Kassadin come through, SK versus Millennium, Gragas was picked by SK, and they actually pushed it down the ranks into the support role to give Freddy then the final pick. And we'll see what they go for here, with Gambit now going to have to pick a top laner out. And that gives the ability for Freddy to choose whether he wants to take that Gragas up there, or whether he'll go something against the Irelia, which Kubon has picked up. We're also going to see Eddie back on Thresh.
So I like the idea of the Thresh for Eddie in conjunction with Kassadin and Irelia. They've got a lot of single target focus. They can really pop somebody and cause them a lot of trouble. And if Gambit can survive the laning phase thanks to pressure from Diamond, Irelia and Kassadin can do a pretty good job at singling out targets of SK Gaming. They are very mobile, they are very quick. So all of that mobility that Gragas and Ari have in team fights can in theory be dealt with, especially if Eduard is on point with his death sentences and his lanterns. But for SK, the question is, what option do they want to go in the top lane? Is it going to be an early game Renekton? Is it going to be Shyvana for team fights? And it looks like Freddy's going to go for the Renekton, which he used to beat Fnatic yesterday.
Yeah, Renekton coming in again. A champion which has honestly fallen out of favor in that top lane. Still very strong when it comes to that early to mid-game bullying. We'll see what he can do against Kubon on Irelia here. And Kubon, we have to say, this week has really stepped up his game, has found form. Probably at the, I don't know if we can quite call it the right time here for Gambit, although it technically is, you know, moving forward to the end of the season. Of course, they can now challenge the Copenhagen Wolves for 7th if they win this game and if the Copenhagen Wolves lose later. So we'll see if Kubon can bring that form with Irelia.
He's going to need to, because he's got so much to deal with. While Irelia is very mobile and can deal with hard CC, you've got a knockback from Lee Sin, knockback from Gragas, knockback from Tristana. Those are all very disruptive in team fights. But if SK use them inappropriately or do not group up effectively, they can get run down by Gambit's squad. This is also a difference in AD carries. When SK won on day 1 against a Kassadin, they were running Kog'Maw, who's a little bit more of a lane bully than Tristana is. So pressure on CandyPanda not to fall behind in lane.
Well, guys, have those champion picks made. You switch your vote. Tweet hashtag GMB win or hashtag SK win to @LOL Esports. And we'll see if the numbers change out as the game plays out. It was 67%.
It was about 2/3.
About 2/3, that's right. I forgot about that. 67% was the vote from LOLesports.com. We've seen yesterday in particular the vote swinging very much between the, the pre-game vote and what we've seen after Champion Select. Might happen here today as well. Interested to see how Gambit do. Kassadin gets through. They get it. A lot of pressure on Nick. We are going to get into game, though. It's the first one of our final day here in Super Week and final one of the regular summer split season. It is, of course, Gambit taking on SK Gaming. Diamond getting his Evelyn. Kassadin coming through for Nick. On the other side, though, SK Gaming, they calculated that one. If they didn't want to play against a Kassadin, well, you've seen it from literally every other team out there in the world. You ban him.
So I also want to highlight, SK have allowed Kassadin through against Gambit and Millennium. But in the games against Fnatic and Alliance, Kassadin was banned out. Alliance banned it against SK, and I'm looking at the Fnatic match in a moment, and Fnatic banned it out against SK as well. So when SK are on red side, they've allowed it to go through in favor of getting priority picks which they feel can counter their opponents. Now, it wasn't a champion matchup that won the game against Millennium. It was a playstyle matchup. So if Gambit have been listening to their analyst, and they've really looked at the games over the weekend, early defensive vision is going to be a priority and responding to any aggressive plays that SK make on the map. That is how Gambit have to control.
Well, one thing that their analyst has not said is that Diamond should start with just a health pot. So he's going to recall and actually buy. Not exactly the ideal start to it. Actually, he's going elixirs here. Ooh.
So again,
wow.
It's early game. That is going to give you a few minutes of power. The reason that SK managed to beat Millennium, I know I keep harping on about it, it was just the way that they played that game. They moved around, they towered over with Elise, they got into Millennium's faces. And I think if Diamond is in the right place at the right time and is responding to ganks, you do have some early game power in Irelia, in Corki. Not so much in Kassadin, but obviously, I think the focus for SK will be the side lanes, top and bottom, to try and disrupt Gambit. We'll see if it works out.
Elixir start already popped there by Diamond right at the very get-go. This mid lane is obviously Jesiz and Nick already trading a few blows. Jesiz, just from his auto attacks and the range that he's got there, should be able to bully Nick completely in this early game, but as you rightly mentioned, it all depends on how they can continue to do that and not just over the first few minutes. Eduard, meanwhile, did take a belly slam from nRated, which has already knocked him down to about half health.
So I want to highlight, with Diamond starting on blue buff, as well as using that elixir very early on, he may be looking for faster clear times and potentially invading himself. Look at this, he's going to poke in now with Svenskeren. This could end up being a smite fight. Sven's got no vision on Evelyn. And he's going to come in, he's jumping on Sven.
Oh, he's coming in, that's a lot of damage coming out. Svenskeren flashes, Diamond flashes in, and the first blood will go down. Meanwhile, CandyPanda, he's going to have to flash away. Genja might be able to pick up this one. He does, and Gambit open the game with a 2-0 lead.
Gambit had definitely looked at SK Gaming's match and figured out what they needed to do. The punishment on Svenskeren from a very early invade and an early elixir buy was very, very intelligent. Very intelligent from Diamond. It's not over yet. Diamond is now looking for Jesiz. Not going to get poked. If Diamond had purchased that elixir and been spotted early on, that may have signaled to SK Gaming what the plan might be or what the theory might be. So by Diamond holding on to it, recalling, and then picking it up, he holds on to that information. Very, very strong start. They've slowed down Sven in the jungle. He's got no buffs to work with, not blue, not red. And Diamond's going to get a 1, 2, 3 buff start once he eventually decides to clear his own red buff.
Well, first of all,
I think they're going to kill him.
He's going to go in towards Jesiz here. Look at the damage coming down. Jesiz not going to bother to flat. And Diamond picking up his second kill of the game. It's not gone this well for Diamond at the start of the game for a long time.
This is why every single other team has banned Evelyn against Gambit. Diamond has been famous for his Evelyn play for years, for such a long time, and everybody else has not given him the champion. SK Gaming may have underestimated the strength of Evelyn and Diamond in the hopes that the Gambit was Kassadin. Take a look at this. Diamond's coming in from behind. Candy and nRated, they're in trouble, Joe.
Well, if they're just thinking that Thrasher's there, they've got another thing coming. It's CandyPanda that will jump away. There's a flash play from Eddie, and CandyPanda goes down. Diamond gets the hat-trick.
All of this before the elixir has even worn off. Diamond Prox is currently sitting on 1,600 gold. That early investment has most definitely paid off, and Gambit have a 2,000 gold lead. The reason they are doing so incredibly well is the fact that they've got the lane bullies, and Diamond is just playing phenomenally. He's completely shut Svenskeren down, and thanks to the strength of the Thresh Corki in the early game, he's also punishing CandyPanda and nRated on Tristana. Tristana's lane presence significantly lower than that of Corki, especially without items.
And funnily enough, I was talking to SK outside, and their manager was saying, I've got a feeling that Gambit might have something a little bit special lined up for us this time around, and why not? Gambit's last game of the season. Try something a little bit new, but now Svenskeren actually going to come around. Kubon is at half HP, does have flash available. Question is, can Sven get in there? He's going to spot Kubon doing the recall. Is he going to be able to stop him doing it though? There is the peek out. Q will land, and it's just going to stop him. Nothing more than that. Kubon will still have to recall, but he's got TP to come back into lane.
No buffs on Svenskeren, and Freddy was too far away, so Kubon could potentially have just stunned him up and walked out of that one, so probably the smart call. And we do see Sven moving to this mid lane. Looking at the mid lane, thanks to the gank from Diamond onto Jesiz, Nick on a melee Kassadin is out CS and Jesiz. Now, I do want to say, the Ari into Kassadin matchup from the Millennium game, Kerb also farmed even with Jesiz, so he wasn't really dominating the lane so much as just roaming and helping out the side lanes when he was moving. And Nick obviously not running teleport, so we'll see who roams more effectively once they get access to that side of the game.
Well, let's have a look down some of the other farm numbers here, specifically the AD carries. Of course, CandyPanda has died twice now on a champion, which, now you would say one thing about Tristan is that whatever level you've got, the safety of being able to jump away, and has already died twice. Here we go once again. Jesiz gonna go all in here on towards Nick. He's got Svenskeren coming in. Nick actually flashing away. Ignite will be enough, but Jesiz is gonna go down. It's 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
So Diamond manages to close the kill out. Yes, this is fantastic for Diamond on Evelyn, who's 4-0. But what he needs to start doing is transitioning some of that gold and some of that power to the rest of his side lanes. It is all concentrated on Diamond. So if SK Gaming ever shut him down, it makes life much easier for winning the rest of the fights. So a very, very strong start. Nick is obviously going to go for Catalyst and Protect as his first purchase rather, and Eduard's caught in rated.
Oh, Hook coming in. Have they got the damage to finish off the Gregor? So good barrel comes in. Eddie not got any mana left, and Genja just going to go toe-to-toe there with CandyPanda. Both AD carries do have that, the double Doran's blade at this point of things. And we see that the summoner spells up on both sides here, really. Ignite and Flash for nRated. Eduard actually went with the exhaust and the flash for the start of this one. I think Gambit pushing that lane up, we're going to back off.
Yeah, going to be a little bit careful. We do see Nick has actually jumped onto Jesiz in the mid lane. So Gambit have come out the gate swinging, and it is working in their favor for the time being. Top lane is, however, slightly behind in CS. Freddy on that Renekton is doing what Renekton does best. He's bullying out the top lane, and Irelia versus Renekton is an age-old matchup. Something that we've seen so many times, but look how aggressive Nick is playing. He's going in!
He's going in, and he's going to get the kill easily. Absolute ease with that kill there. Catalyst and Protector got himself the flask. Got a Doran's ring in there, and Jesiz, you see a little shake of the head there, and we've seen it time and time again that when Jesiz falls off his game, when he gets camped out early and has a bad start, which he's having, 1-3-0 right now, it doesn't go well for him. He loses confidence.
I said a moment or two ago that Gambit need to get the gold on their solo laners, and I was saying, Diamond, you need to give that over. Hell, if your solo laners can do it without you, even better. With the 6th kill on the board and the fact that there's no presence or pressure from mid or bottom lane, Gambit take an unchallenged dragon, and they continue to grow their lead. Joe, I'm getting flashbacks to last year's summer. We were talking in rehearsals and you pointed out, SK Gaming lost the match to Fnatic. That put us on a 6 or 7 game tie-breaking spectacle. And SK are potentially going to give us the same today.
Well, the thing is, the stars still have to align here. Obviously, this game is by no means over. But actually, if Gambit end up winning this game, I believe there are only 2 scenarios out of all the other games. Only 2 scenarios where there would be no tiebreakers. Some of them include 3-way ties and the 1-way tie down in the bottom of the table for 7th and 8th as well, as Diamond starts to come in. Of course, we'll keep you updated on the tiebreakers as we move through the day. There's the ulti coming in, and nRated will try and get out. The Flay gets CandyPanda. I think they're safe here, though. Diamond not going to go underneath the tower.
Very, very committed. That death sentence was so close to catching Candy out, but he was very wise and managed to get to the side lane. It's not over as Nick again is jumping on Jesiz, but Jesiz has turned it around.
Yeah, turns it around here with his ultimate and may have enough damage. There's the Rift Walk away, and Nick will be able to escape that. He got the blasting wand after that last kill, and I think he thought, okay, I'm ready to go for this one. Diamond actually coming in. Caught a little bit out and actually has to flash away from it. That was dangerous. They're going to go in. They get one. They can have them both as well. Jesiz decides against it. Didn't actually have a flash there. Better safe than sorry, I think, at this point from SK. Diamond bit off too much there in that mid lane.
I wonder if Diamond was actually fully paying attention to the lane, because he walked straight into Svenskeren. There's no stealth on Lee Sin, and that charm, that actually I think connected. Very close. Nick needs to be careful with his Rift Walks. Every time he's jumping into Jesiz to harass, that's the 2nd or 3rd time we've seen him eat a point-blank charm. So he's got to be very, very careful, and public opinion, it has swayed, Joe.
He has swayed. 66% now going over to Gambit. And of course, when you start off this strong, you can kind of expect that the vote will start to change. Of course, Diamond himself, 4-1-0. Got the Spirit of the Elder Lizard, got mobility boots already built up for him. And we'll see now if he can turn those 4 kills into kills elsewhere across the map. They did get the Dragon. They're sat on almost a 3,000 gold lead at this point. 11-20 into the game. Can't say anything bad about that.
No, you really can't. I would like to see Diamond maybe helping Kubon out for the time being. Freddy's already built up a 20 CS lead. He hasn't necessarily been punishing Kubon super amounts because of the Dragon. There's not even a gold disparity between the two. But it is very clear that Kubon's having a bit of a difficult time. And we do see it's actually Nick that may be making that first move. Obviously, with Kasten having that Rift Walk, chasing is particularly effective. Let's talk a little bit about this next Dragon. Because, we'll get to that in a second. Diamond, he's found CandyPanda.
Oh, CandyPanda's in the middle of nowhere here. He's going to try and jump away, but they've got the speed. Here comes Genja from the side. Svenskeren walks around the corner as well. Takes a Lantern as nRated. Has to use his ultimate. They need to close in. Charm will land onto Eddie, but they need to back away. Nick gets himself one. They're going to keep going here. Svenskeren off to the wall, but the exhaust is already down. There's a good kick that will stop the chase in. They might dive it, though.
Yeah, there's no minions, though. This is going to be very, very risky. Gambit, they're picking the fight.
They're going to dive it, and it is going to go on towards CandyPanda, and this might be 2 kills. He will. It's a double. He got one just before that. Technically a triple there for Nick to bring him now up to 4-1-2. Jesiz backed away around the side. Did manage to get a tower in return.
At the cost of a tower, getting your Kassadin fed this early on is a trade Gambit will be happy with. They do not mind roaming and moving around the map. They will also be losing a blue buff, which will hurt Nick in these next few minutes. But that tower dive was executed perfectly from Gambit. Eduard went in, tanked the first 2 or 3 tower hits, and backed away, allowing Nick and Diamond to get a bunch of the kills. And just some miscommunication there, I think, between Freddy and Jesiz. Miscalculation. I think Jesiz is on tilt somewhat. So in terms of the fight, even though Jesiz is roaming, you can see on the minimap he's instantly followed by Nick. And Eduard saving Genja. Genja was over-aggressive. He flashed forward to try get the kill on CandyPanda and realized, oh, there's a Lisa in there, which I'm not looking forward to. And the most impressive thing is just how they close this fight out. I actually think they pause to talk about the dive, discuss, you know, the way they're going to move in, and I feel like it's Eddie that calls us, because look, Diamond was on retreat, and now they come back in. Just very, very smart and well communicated, well coordinated between the Gambit squad. Even the Lantern as well, if it was needed.
Really, really nicely done. Not something that we've become used to saying when it comes to Gambit's plays, but this week they seem to have turned a new leaf. Certainly doing well this time again. And look at that, Diamond again down this bottom side. Really wanting to get CandyPanda out of this matchup, and I'll tell you what, it's working wonders. 0-3-0, 30 CS behind, and there's the jump in once again. Diamond couldn't quite get in there. And look at that gold difference over time. Well, the key point is that you can't see any red on it, which means that Diamond just absolutely dominating Svenskeren.
Yes, he really, really is. More importantly is the decisions the team is making. Nick has Sorcerer's Shoes and a Rod of Ages, and he's had them completed since the 13th minute. That is terrifying. We'll see how the rest of his build continues to progress. 3 versus 2. Gambit are biting with more than they can chew. Eduard and Genja are close in tow. CandyPanda can't join. This should be a blue buff for Gambit.
And it will be, yeah, smited away by Diamond to make sure that that one was safe. And look at the farm there in that mid lane. Not only is Nick racking up the kills, but he's kept the farm very, very even there. Freddy, who's been quiet this top lane, not really been too involved. And we see Nick, Rod of Ages on. He is not scared whatsoever of fighting with Jesiz. Look at this, they're going under the tower once again. CandyPanda's going to try and jump away. Ultimate use, and that will surely mean that nRated is left as cannon fodder. They've got no minions left. They have to actually take the Lantern. Well, the minions are now coming back in. They've already just dove you. I'm not sure why CandyPanda and nRated came back in. CandyPanda has to use his flash.
So Gambit should secure the tower if they focus it down. Doesn't look like that's the objective for the time being, and a little bit miscommunication. Nick finally sidesteps. He does have Ignite in a few seconds' time, so if Jesiz sticks around this mid lane, Nick could be going for the kill. Something that is very important to note, Irelia, despite the fact she's losing now, will eventually start outscaling Renekton when these team fights happen, but he's going to get dove.
Gonna get Dofia. Kubon down to half HP, will dive off the backside, but stuck underneath the turret. Svenskeren will kick him into the wall. He actually just took the safeguard away onto the minions, and that will be a tower. But Gambit, for all that trouble, no, it might not be Darian anymore in that top lane, but they're using Kubon in that scenario for exactly the same purpose.
Definitely working out in their favor. Gambit come out with a net game once more. They have access to the bottom lane tower if they decide to push that wave up, despite the fact they're going to lose their second tower in the top lane. Gambit as a team have always said, Dragon will respawn, you prioritize Dragon because it's gold that your opponents will never make back. And as long as Gambit hold this lead and decide to focus towers at some point, they should take them down. The one weakness of Gambit's comp is with a melee, Irelia, jungler, and mid lane, taking towers is only going to happen once they have clear team fight victories. They can't siege up particularly well with 3 melee champions. So we'll see if SK can make that work in their favor. Jesiz has roamed. Nick has read the situation, slowly moving down. But it does look like he's going to back away. So nothing coming of that bottom lane movement yet.
They see all this as well. There's so many wards around that tri-bush. They saw Svenskeren peek out, and they know that they don't need to move any further forward on this one. Svenskeren going to sit himself on top of a ward as well, which is hardly the sneaky thing to do in this scenario. Genja and Eduard can just basically waste his time or look to turn this one around. Glacial Shroud and Hex Drinker now on towards one of them as well, towards Diamond. They're going to go for nRated first of all. He will drop his ulti in. There is the Lantern, the exhaust, the ultimate's going down.
Look at
and
Nick.
That is one kill. Nick may make it more. Here comes the dive in. Has he got the burst? Ulti from CandyPanda won't be enough to save him. Ignite is ticking away. Diamond has tanked up the turret. That's a double coming in for Genja, and Svenskeren will fall as well. Triple kill for Genja.
And again, Eduard standing on the outskirts, tanking up multiple turret hits while the rest of the team tower dives. Gambit are going to secure the first tower of the game, pull further ahead. I do think Jesiz did the right decision in that situation by pushing the mid lane, and Freddy is similarly doing the same in the top. So while Gambit are pulling ahead, they are losing a lot of presence in the middle and top lane. They need to get some vision, and they need to shut down Jesiz and Freddy more. Potentially, by pushing the mid and top lanes aggressively, getting control of SK's jungle, and then preventing Freddy or Jesiz from roaming as effectively. But 4 kills on your jungler, mid lane, and AD carry each, Gambit could not have asked for a better start to this game.
Yeah, and CandyPanda is pretty much the opposite of that. 0-4-0. He's got a pickaxe and triple Doran's blade. Look at Genja, Trinity Force, BF Sword, got himself double Doran's in there as well. If we look at the direct gold comparison, it is just not even close. Almost 3,000 gold Genja has over CandyPanda.
Look at the invade from Gambit. I think they're realizing that they need to shut down the top half of the map to continue to gain or hold control. And I think we have to question the Tristana pick from SK Gaming. When they beat Millennium, it was because Kog'Maw was able to bully Tristana in lane. And Tristana's not going to be able to bully Corki, despite the fact that Diamond has basically pitched a tent and almost guaranteed the win in the lane for Genja and Eduard. It is still a factor in the case, and I guess if they'd run Kog'Maw, he would have been more vulnerable. Nevertheless, Eduard, Death Sentence connect.
Oh, Box gonna go down. That means Freddy's slowed. His ultimate will be used, but is it enough to actually keep him alive? Kubon tanking up the tower here. I think may fall. No, he won't fall. Who am I kidding? He's able to get away from it. Meanwhile, Genja gonna be closed onto here. nRated, Svenskeren, both coming round. Can they shut him down? 4-0-3 Corki is going to be able to do damage to them before they even get near. He's actually just turned around and he's going to go straight in for CandyPanda. Can he actually get away from this? Where's he off to? He's flashing, he's Valkyrie, he needs one more rocket to get the kill. One more will do it, and he gets it. He gets the kill, and now Nicky's there as well. They do end up losing Genja. TP from Kubon will come out, and SK back off.
It's not over yet. Kubon and Nick are diving in.
Slow in there, and look at the damage from Kubon. That will be another kill secured, and Genja, you have to give credit, holding out for so long there in that bottom lane. Also just flip the tables and say that was not a good dive from SK whatsoever.
I completely agree. Because of the aggressive move from Genja and maintaining control of SK's members in the bottom lane, it allowed Gambit to pick up another kill. It ends up being a 2-for-1 trade. Yes, they steal the blue buff, and now they have access to this middle lane. Look at Eduard from the side. Can he get the death sentence on Jesiz? No, that's a flash.
flashing away from him. But it's a tower anyway here for Gambit, their second one of the game. Let's see what they do next. Going to that top lane would be the easy thing to do. It's about at the halfway point, maybe just a little bit further back here. We see Freddy pushing that one out. Obvious target, but they must have a decent amount of gold to spend after that one. Yeah, 1,600 on Nick. There's similar amounts on Diamond and Kubon as well.
So triple home guard boots already completed for Gambit. Not only does Nick have the immense mobility of Kassadin, but you've got similar for Diamond and for Eduard. And what's very important to note is how Gambit instantly realized that Freddy and Jesiz were pushing the mid and top lane. Gambit applied pressure. They went into the red buff of SK. They put wards down. They have some deep vision. They've cleared out the blue buff. They've stolen the last 2 or 3, I think it is, actually. And Gambit have just now started to put in place the win conditions to take towers. If Gambit do not catch SK out in and around the jungle and the map, they technically cannot siege. The knockbacks, the knockaways, and the wave clear from SK make it very difficult for short-range Corki to kill towers. So I'm very impressed with Gambit's decision-making and playstyle. They understand their comp, and they understand how to beat SK, kill, make it happen.
Well, nRated just caught completely out of this one. Doesn't get hooked. He's going to try and just run away to waste some time. Genja just coming in there with a rocket to snipe the kill off. And that will be his 6th of the game. They're going to get themselves another dragon here.
Eduard's gone full James Bond, 007. Been involved in half the team's kills, and just it's non-stop. Gambit are punishing SK completely. Every single time SK are moving around, they simply can't push waves out because of how quickly Gambit can collapse. And look at Gambit, they've got multiple players with Moby boots, and they're chasing down Eduard. Come on, can you land a death sentence? That was a flash from Nick and it missed.
Completely missed as well. Eduard actually just waiting here to get in range for the easier play. The charm will actually land onto Eddie. That's some good damage here as Jesiz going to get blasted. Freddy will dive into the middle of them. It's Eduard that's the target. They get him. Well, look at that. Jesiz finished off with no problem. And now Svenskeren going to be chased down. You can't escape that kind of team. And that is Nick now unstoppable at 5-1-7. 2 for 1 for Gambit.
Again, another trade that Gambit will be happy with. While all of that was going on, Genja's free farming the bottom lane. He's accelerated a 50 CS advantage over CandyPanda. And if Gambit had stuck around in the top lane, they could have put more damage onto this tower, but unfortunately didn't have the minions to work with. So they are forced to back away. But this is a 10,000 gold lead just shy of it at the 23 minutes. And this is a Gambit that is reminiscent of last year. Aggressive, in your face, non-stop action. And it is all stemmed from Diamond Prox lifting up his game. Fact of the matter is, he got the snowball rolling, and the rest of Gambit have hopped on board, and they have continued to pull further and further ahead.
We'll see if they can close this game out. I mean, they are incredibly far ahead. Let's make no mistake about that one. But how good are they going to be at finishing off this game? And where's the next move coming in from? Obviously, top lane still has an outer turret on it. We can see that bottom and middle already pushed up there as well. Nick will just be getting himself another blue buff. I still feel like if we look back to SK, some of the games that they won in spring and start of summer as Diamond, let's forget that moment because Diamond's going to come around here. Svenskeren has to safeguard away. Who's going to get themselves the red buff? Pull it in there. Jesiz and Nick going to go 1 versus 1.
Okay.
Okay.
May have anticipated the next Spirit Rush.
Yeah.
May have anticipated. Better safe than sorry. Guarantees he doesn't die. I agree with the point you're making. SK dug deep and played the mid to late game after losing laning phase multiple times.
Yeah.
They have more experience than any other European team at that specific thing. Whether that's positive or negative, you to decide. And on the same token, Gambit's composition does have a weakness at taking towers when players are grouped up. Can Genja get him? Oh, that was so close. He's got him!
That will land. No, CandyPanda's dead here. There's no way in hell that he's getting away from that. Genja getting the kill. Eddie was actually coming in there to help. And even gets the farm underneath the turret. 7-1-3 Corki.
Lucky number 7. I don't know what to say. I mean, Diamond is now 1v2 with help from Baron. And here comes Nick. Can Nick pick up kills? He doesn't have a flash. Remember, he used it earlier. Not going to overcommit, though. And I just think, oh my word, Gambit, they're going to be looking for more. There's a tower that they've got to dive, though. They've done it before 3 times. Hell, why would they not do it again?
Well, they're not going to, by the looks of it. Looks like they're actually going to switch off, go towards middle. Jesiz getting himself that pink ward down, so that may be a bit of a key here to weeding out Diamond and stop him from really running riot. The job that he's done fantastic since the very get-go of this game. They are going to steal another blue buff away, and not many blue buffs for Jesiz this game, I'm afraid.
After Gambit lost that first blue buff about 10 or 12 minutes ago, Gambit have invested a lot of time and resources and multiple members, oh, cheeky smite there from Sven, to control the blue buff. Oh, again, trading flash for flash, but you don't mind Eduard trading a flash for CandyPandas, because every single time CandyPanda's flash has been on cooldown, Gambit have found time to catch him out of position and punish him. He's died 6 times in this game, and he's only died twice cumulatively over the last 3 if memory serves.
Yep.
So, you know, Gambit have just had such a strong game, but again, if they don't get kills, if they don't get control of SK's jungle, they don't take towers. And that's why you're seeing the slowdown. Gambit have accelerated, they've got a very big lead, but the only way to continue that is to find kills and find SK out of position. Look at Gambit pushing the top lane tower. That's a smart thing to do while leaving other members to push the side lanes. SK don't want skirmishes.
Well, Genja and Kubon will finish off that final outer turret. Diamond actually going to be spotted, and Jesiz is going to go for him. There is everything except the charm, which misses. He used his DFG just before that. And, well, that would have been a dead Diamond. They're actually going to turn this one straight around. The whole plan's on towards Jesiz. Here comes Genja from the side. And Genja now getting himself another, his 8th of the game. And they may have done enough damage here to force this tower. Minion wave, however, is all the way back at their inner turret. Yeah, Kubon with the Sunfire Cape as well as that Trinity Force is going to start looking to split push. It's going to take a little bit more time before he can truly 1v1 Freddy with that Randion's Omen as well as the Cutlass, but he's starting to get into that position. That's a great hook, and the rest of Gambit, they are just melting nRated. Look at the buff control from Gambit. It's absolute dominance. The minion wave you talked about, Joe, is now on the side of Gambit, and they'll start sieging up. They have a numbers advantage, and SK are too scared to stick around. Well, Diamond's going to dive right to the middle of them. It's nRated that they focus down first. Freddy is also low, but CandyPanda will then be focused after he has to jump away, and Gambit just fighting them underneath. 2 turrets, basically. They get the first one there on the inner. What's the next plan for them? Dragon. 16 seconds for Dragon. They're going to be on time. Infinity Edge Trinity Force Sorcerer's Shoes completed for Genja. If you look at the gold on Gambit's side, once they pick up this Dragon, they have got such a lot of money. Unfortunately, Genja was trying to pick up the white, gets shut down. That's actually very important because Jesiz gets a bonus 400 gold for ending that killing spree. And it is very important for SK Gaming to get any drips and drabs that they can to make up this 13,000 gold deficit. But SK cannot win team fights, despite the fact they do have a fairly strong team, they do have a lot of disruption. They're simply too far behind to look for straight-up fights. Got to try and hold on to this game, and maybe that inner turret down on the bottom lane is something that they won't be able to hold on, but once Gambit start to try breaking into the base through those inhibitor turrets, that's when it's going to become a lot more difficult for them with the composition that they've got. Of course, Genja can poke a lot, and to be honest, that inner turret, we maybe thought that SK could defend that one well. It all started off with Eddie landing a nice hook, and they just piled in under the tower. So something I do want to point out, a moment or two ago, Genja actually sold his potions, picked up a Negatron Cloak and the Alacrity Enchantment. The reason I highlight that fact, Genja as a player has not necessarily followed the itemization theory that many other AD carries do, and he sat on potions while sitting on several thousand gold. He's still got 1,200 gold in his back pocket, but realizing how quickly he got bursted down by Jesiz, I think prioritizing MR over the likes of picking up maybe the makings of a Lost Whisper or something like that is probably very, very smart. It's going to, in theory, help him survive. But look at this Gambit, they've had complete buff control. Don't get this red, but they are fairly closely set up. As long as SK don't instantly burst somebody down, Gambit should still be able to look for a fight and maybe win it. Well, Diamond wins that little fight with the smite. And that will give him the big race. And look at this standoff. Gambit just trying to lure SK in to that Baron area. SK not having any of it though. One thing that they need to be careful of is CandyPanda's moving down. I think he wants the white, but if he showed himself, that's Baron. Yes, I agree with you, and I also think with Eduard's flash coming off cooldown in a few seconds' time, if anyone from SK shows themselves, Eddie's just going to flash Flay once more. He's done it a bunch of times. Look, he's setting himself up. Whoa. Very, very close. And
while Eduard has not necessarily hit a massive amount of death sentences this game, he has been super impactful with his flays and his box placement, which is allowing Gambit to continue finding these picks, continue finding kills. It's just very effective play from Gambit.
Well, Kubon has actually left the rest of the team to push that bottom lane, which then leaves SK with a choice to make. Of course, Freddy does have teleport, so he should be the man that's going back home to deal with that and stop Kubon actually getting up onto the inner turret.
So because Gambit are looking to break that inner turret line, I think they're going to be using Baron as a primary target. Whether or not Gambit know how to push the side lanes and then react to towers, we'll see in these next few minutes. Nick was pushing top.
CandyPanda showed himself.
Kubon's bottom. So the rest of Gambit are now grouping up and they're going all in on Genja. That didn't work out for Jesiz.
No, not enough damage coming into that. Gambit here sitting back around the Baron. Actually, SK have just spotted a couple of men moving away from it, so they know that that up until now has not actually been started. Freddy did get a ward in at the back of the pit as well, so that needs to be cleared out here for Gambit. Actually, they've caught nRated completely out in the middle of his own jungle there. Nick actually going to flash on through, and that will be the kill for him, and that is now real bad news for SK, because it'll leave Freddy open on the top lane. He's the tankiest man in the team, but he's going to be wiped out by Genja, and now they can just turn for Baron, or they can go in for more kills. There is the ultimate out of Diamond. Jesiz is going to be slow with no ultimate available. Genja going aggressive, but Jesiz flashes out.
Managed to get the flash from Jesiz. That is super important. CandyPanda is still just trying to farm himself into a relevant position down in the bottom lane, but he doesn't really want to duel Kubon. This is the Baron that Gambit have been dancing around and using to keep SK Gaming's attention. Sven does have smites available. Can he get caught by CC? He's caught!
There's the hook coming in, the pylon. Oh, he actually goes through there into the Baron pit. Won't be able to survive it though. The jungler is now down. That makes his Baron all the more easier. Jesiz is going to be hanging around. There's a flash in, the hook will miss. Exhaust is on Jesiz though, and he then gets picked off.
Fantastic play from Eddie. Even though he doesn't get the CC, the exhaust was timed very effectively. I mean, it was the instant Jesiz jumped in. Had Eduard gone with an ignite, an aggressive play, obviously Jesiz would have killed Genja in that scenario. I think Gambit have made every single decision 100% correct. And they're playing the comp perfectly. They're continuing to accelerate ahead. If you just look at the item disparity, it's day and night between these two teams. Now Genji's even got himself a GA. The only thing he's afraid of is being burst by Jesiz, and that is non-negated.
Taken completely out. That's Sonya's for Cassidy. There's a Banshee's Veil for Diamond, so not many targets still available here for Jesiz. See what he does with that. Is Kubon going to come charging out? CandyPanda says, no, I don't want to get involved in it. Kubon will dash through the minions. He's pretty quick at this stage. And there's the ultimate out of CandyPanda to send him back. Bit dangerous there for CandyPanda. And it still might be because Diamond has come across the side. They know that CandyPanda is in that brush. Diamond's going to go straight underneath the tower. Nick was coming from the side. Can't get in. Well, that might be this turret now.
CandyPanda has not had flash available for the last 20 minutes. Every single time he's pushing in lane or farming, he just gets dove. He's even gone back in for some CS, and you can't do that. Gambit have been in your face the whole time. It's not worth the risk. Gambit are going to bully the way onto SK. Look at Renekton, he's in the mid lane, so even if a fight were to break out, Gambit could end it and assassinate people quickly enough. If Diamond, Kubon, and Nick jump on the same target, Irelia has a lot of damage, and while she's not the same burst that Kassadin is, they can assassinate people. So let's see Gambit. How are they going to siege this one up? They've got to deal with the wave clear of Gragas and Tristana, but they've just got such a ridiculous lead. They're bullying SK off the tower.
Yeah, CandyPanda actually just getting hit by the full combo of Genja. And that's how it's going to continue to go with the next minion wave moving up towards this inhibitor turret. And if anyone gets caught, and you see Genja how confident he is with that Guardian Angel on. He's probably having his best game all season, to be honest. 10, 2, and 5 as we are going to see Nick diving in on the side. It's Freddy that they're targeting. The tanky man already going low. Svenskeren will safeguard away. Ulti comes out from Diamond. They're not too fussed about the kills. They actually want the turrets here, and that's going to be the first inhib of the game.
Very well played. Despite the fact that Gambit have got melee champions on their squad, they've got such a big lead. They've got Baron buff and the ability to dive. So Freddy's the tankiest player on SK, and he can't stand toe-to-toe with Gambit. Hook, caught by the hook and just drops. What I also like, Gambit's timings, every time they've really sieged up these towers, has been in tune with the Dragon. They took the last mid-inner turret for the previous Dragon. They stole multiple blue buffs for the Dragon before that. 5 Dragons out of 5, 6 towers to 2. They have 19 kills more. And I don't think SK can do anything to finish, to bounce back. Gambit are simply too far ahead. They're too mobile and there's too much damage. I mean, monumental mistakes have to happen multiple times for SK to come back in this game.
Well, Genja has actually just gone off and bought himself a Last Whisper outright. He was sat on enough gold to just go back there, pick up that Last Whisper and get himself back into lane. We also have Void Staff on Nick. I'm not sure if that was just picked up or...
Deathcap just picked up, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so it was Deathcap that was just added in there.
Either
way, it's 6-1-11 Nick on Kassadin. Shown already that he's not scared to die. I mean, he's got that Zhonya's for protection until the rest of the team can get up there and help him out if needs be. Meanwhile, Kubon and Diamond are pushing straight in towards the top inner.
Something that I like as well is the Zeke's Herald pickup on Eddie. Because his team is so far ahead, you'll notice Genja has not bought any lifesteal yet. So the 10% lifesteal he's getting from there, along with the fact that the rest of his team are all, you know, auto attack. They get a lot of damage from multiple auto attacks and fights. So they've got some sustained. Jesiz! That hurt.
Yeah, that hurt a lot. Bursted down. Not really a problem for Nick, it seems, with their Deathcap, and now they've caught the other 3 on the top lane here. CandyPanda going to get hooked in. Eddie will finish that. nRated exhausted and finished off. We've got Renekton on the top side, but they might not even care about it. They're going straight towards the base.
There's super minions pushing up the bottom lane. Gambit can look to finish the game right now. If they clear that wave out, 30 seconds before Jesiz and nRated are back, 40 seconds before CandyPanda. There's no wave clear on Freddy and Svenskeren. Joe, Gambit have done it. They've beaten SK.
Well, they still got to finish it off, and it's not over till the fat lady sings, but she's definitely warming up as Freddy is going to go down. Svenskeren dives right into the middle of them. They want the kills here, and they're going to get them as well. It's Genja that gets it for the ace, and there go the Turewicz and the Nexus, and would you believe it, Gambit take down SK in the final game of the split.
I'm at a loss for words. Good to see SK smiling. But where the hell were these players for the last 20 games? Not entirely fair. Kubon's more recent than that, but you get my point.
This was about to be my next question, actually. This Gambit that we've just seen here today, to be honest, that we've seen this week as a whole.
Yes.
Were, I don't want to say only a mid-table team, maybe even higher, but they wouldn't have been last, would they?
That game is going to put fear into SK Gaming Prime and Ninjas in Pajamas, who both played last night in the Challenger Series 2 finals. Because Gambit looked phenomenal. They keep the dream alive of potentially taking 7th. They keep the bigger dream alive of potentially having 3-way tiebreakers for the middle of the table. And I guess, you know, fact of the matter is, while this is a celebration for Gambit, it is still a 8-20 summer split for the team. Hence the stern looks there on Nick's face.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, they've got to carry this form through. They're not going to be playing in playoffs. There's a long time between now and that promotion tournament for them to be working on things, but also for other teams to be working on things. Does, however, set us up for possible ties here. The likelihood of it happening today, I mean, there were quite a few different options. This sheet has got a lot of different options on them, but we can cut out half of them. And as I mentioned earlier on, literally there are only 2 scenarios where we don't have tiebreakers today.
So because Gambit won, let's focus on them for the time being. The fact that they've taken SK Gaming down means they are now tied in wins with the Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah.
So if the Copenhagen Wolves beat the Super Hot Crew later today, Copenhagen Wolves take 7th, Gambit cannot catch them. If, however, the Wolves lose that game, we will have a tiebreaker to determine 7th, because their respective head-to-heads are 2-2, and Gambit beat the Wolves on day 1 of Super Week. So if we're going to have a rematch of that, after this game, you have to feel Gambit would be the favorites.
And you might say it's just for 7th and 8th, but actually that 7th position means you get to choose from the remaining 2 challenger teams as to who you want to play in promotion. We've got lots of action still to come today, guys, so don't go anywhere. For now, though, we're going to head back to Shox, who's on stage with Diamond after that victory over SK.
Thank you very much, Joe. I mean, wow, what a play coming out of you guys here in this game. Talk me first off through your strategy with Evelyn in the beginning, because we were looking, we thought, wow, Diamond only has a health pot, but you had a plan.
Well, I wanted to prove that all the junglers are playing very unsafe now, so you can like pretty much in every game go for their second buff and kill them for free, and I did it, and the blue pot just gave me an advantage to do that, and also it like allowed me to kill some more guys.
Some more guys, a lot more guys. What was it you think after that initial strength in the early game that secured you guys the win? You were also mentioning that you thought you had a pretty good comp going into it.
Well, what was the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Your comp going into it was also pretty strong with the Kassadin also open.
Yeah, I don't know why people like leaving Kassadin open, because he's like the most OP champion in the game. Maybe they had strategy to prevent that happen, but it seems like they didn't, or something just didn't work out.
So even with that great start, it was just very apparent that you guys were playing together phenomenally. This also means that you can still get that 7th place, and you have more of a chance to decide your own fate going into promotion, of course. So talk me through the importance of having that 7th place.
Okay, that's not really important for us to take the 7th place. Maybe just to take NIP for relegation against us, but that's not really important that much. But we really want to play more games, so I would be glad if Copenhagen Wolves loses, and then we play one more match.
So can I take from that that you are absolutely confident in your team as it is now, that you can beat whoever comes your way?
No, I think we're just well prepared. We are not going like 10-0 everyone, but we're a very strong team now, and we practiced only like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, it was very impressive. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, the Super Hot Crew and Millennium fight for a place in the standings, and we're going to break down this game, so don't go anywhere.
Let's make them our cheese.
What? Let's make them cheese because we're not chicken and we don't want beef, so we're ham.
Or what? It's ham or cheese, there's no chicken. Stop trying to force in the chicken.
Bark, bark, bark.
And he's going to come in, he's jumping on Sven.
Oh, he's coming in, that's a lot of damage coming out. Svenskeren flashes, Diamond flashes in, and the first blood will go down. Meanwhile, CandyPanda, he's going to have to flash away. Genja might be able to pick up this one. Ignite is ticking away. Diamond has tanked up the turret. That's a double coming in for Genja, and Svenskeren will fall as well. Triple kill for Genja. He's with a dead cap, but now they've caught the other 3 on the top lane here. CandyPanda going to get hooked in. Eddie will finish that, and nRated exhausted and finished off.